Single dad returned from war. His neighbor said one sentence that changed everything. The bus doors opened with a tired hiss, and Ayan stepped down with the rest of the passengers, boots hitting the familiar but distant ground of his hometown. For a moment he didn't move. The air felt different here, quieter than the war zones, heavier than memory. His duffel bag hung from one shoulder, worn and dusty, carrying everything he owned from the last 2 years. People passed him, greeting relatives, calling for rides, laughing. No one waited for him. He expected that. Still, the emptiness pressed against his chest. He started walking instead of hiring a rickshaw. The road to his neighborhood was lined with the same neem trees, though taller now. Shops had new paint. A bakery where he once bought sweets for his daughter had closed. Every step felt like turning pages in a book he was afraid to finish. He replayed her last hug before deployment. Tiny arms, fierce grip, tearful promise, "Come fast, Baba." His house appeared at the end of the lane. The sight stopped him cold. The blue paint had faded into a dull gray. The front gate leaned slightly, one hinge loose. Weeds had grown along the wall, but near the steps, half buried in dust, lay a small red rubber ball and a plastic teacup from a toy set. He recognized them instantly. He had tripped over that same cup the morning he left. He smiled without meaning to, then felt his throat tighten. He pushed the gate open. It scraped loudly against the ground. "Meher?" He called gently as he walked to the door. No answer. He knocked once, then harder. The hollow echo from inside made his pulse quicken. He tried the handle, locked. A flicker of worry turned into a steady burn. She should be here. School hours were over by now. Maybe she was with the neighbor, he thought, but no note. No sound, no movement felt wrong. He stepped back, scanning the windows, searching for any sign of life. Curtains drawn, dust on the sill. Too much dust. A window next door creaked open. Old Mrs. Rahman leaned out, her eyes narrowing first in confusion, then widening in disbelief. Her hand flew to her mouth. "Ayan?" she said, almost whispering. "Is it really you?" He let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. "Yes, Auntie, I just arrived." "Where is Meher?" "She's not opening the door." The old woman didn't answer right away. Her expression shifted from surprise to something heavier, something that made his stomach drop. "You came back," she said softly. Fear slid into his voice. "Auntie, where is my daughter?" She disappeared from the window. Then her front door opened slowly. She looked at him with gentle, worried eyes. "Come inside first," she said. "You need to sit before I tell you." Ayan sat on the edge of the wooden chair, his duffel bag still hanging from his shoulder as if he might need to run at any moment. Mrs. Rahman placed a cup of tea in front of him, but his hands were too tense to lift it. The house smelled of cardamom and old books. A wall clock ticked loudly, each second stretching his fear thinner. "Please tell me," he said, voice low but unsteady. "Where is Meher?" The old woman lowered herself into the chair across from him. For a few moments she only looked at his face, the scars, the exhaustion, the hope. When she finally spoke, her words came gently. "Your daughter never stopped waiting at the gate, every single day." His fingers tightened around the cup. The porcelain clicked against the saucer. "She would come home from school, put her bag inside, and sit right there by the road," Mrs. Rahman continued. "Sometimes with your army cap, sometimes with that broken toy radio you fixed for her. She told everyone the same thing, 'My Baba is coming today.'" Ayan swallowed hard. The battlefield had trained him to hold emotion like a shield, but this pierced straight through. "I wrote letters," he murmured. "I sent money." "The letters stopped after some months," she said softly. "Maybe they never reached. Maybe they were lost." But she kept believing, longer than anyone else did. He stared at the floor, seeing not wood grain, but a small girl sitting by a gate, scanning every passing face. People in the lane tried to comfort her, Mrs. Rahman went on. Then slowly they stopped answering. "You know how people are. Sympathy gets tired." But she didn't. His voice cracked. "What happened?" "One evening in the winter rain, she waited too long. She was already weak from a fever starting. By the time I found her, she was shivering so badly she couldn't stand." Mrs. Rahman's eyes glistened. "I brought her here. The doctor treated her. She recovered. But something changed. Ayan looked up sharply. Changed how? She stopped asking when you would come. Stop sitting at the gate. Stop talking about you at all. The old woman folded her hands. Children protect their hearts by going quiet. The words hit him harder than explosions ever had. She's here? He asked, almost afraid to hear the answer. Yes, in my spare room. I couldn't let her stay alone in that house. He stood so quickly the chair scraped back. Can I see her? Mrs. Rahman rose more slowly, nodding. Yes, she said. But go gently. Waiting can grow walls even in small hearts. Ayan stood outside the half-closed door, unable to make his hand move. He had faced gunfire, darkness, and the sound of men crying for help, but this silence frightened him more. A thin line of yellow light stretched across the floor from inside the room. He could hear the faint scratch of a pencil. Mrs. Rahman touched his arm briefly, then walked away, leaving him alone with the moment he had dreamed about for 2 years. He knocked softly and pushed the door open. Meher sat on the floor beside the bed, a notebook open. Colored pencils spread around her in careful order. She had grown, taller, thinner, her hair tied back unevenly, like she had done it herself. She didn't look up at first. Meher, he whispered. The pencil stopped. She lifted her eyes slowly. They rested on his uniform, his bag, his face, studying him like a stranger studies a photograph. For one hopeful second he expected recognition to explode into joy. Running feet, open arms. It didn't happen. She looked back down at the page. You came late, she said quietly. The sentence landed heavier than any accusation. His breath faltered. He stepped inside and knelt, lowering himself to her level. I tried to come sooner, he said. Every day. I promise you I tried. She continued coloring, carefully filling the corner of a small house she had drawn. The house had a gate, a tree, and only one small figure standing outside it. I waited every day, she replied. No anger, just fact. I know, he said, voice breaking. I'm sorry. Children often cry when hurt. Her calmness was worse. It meant the tears had already finished. He noticed the drawing more closely. The small figure outside the gate held a round circle, a cap, his cap. Do you still like drawing? He asked gently, searching for a bridge. She shrugged. It doesn't go away when people don't come back. The words cut clean and deep. He sat back on his heels, absorbing the damage his absence had carved. I came back, he said, almost to himself. She finally looked straight at him. Her eyes were not angry. They were careful. Are you staying, she asked, or visiting? The question shattered what little defense he had left. He reached forward, then stopped, unsure if he had the right to touch her yet. I'm staying, he said. Even if you're mad, even if you don't talk to me, I'm staying. She watched his face, measuring truth the way only a child can, without theory, only instinct. After a moment, she slid her pencil box a few inches toward him. Don't sit at the door, she said quietly. If you're staying, sit properly. Morning light entered the small house in thin, dusty lines revealing everything. Ayan had been too overwhelmed to see the night before. Cracked plaster, a loose curtain rod, and silence where laughter used to live. He had slept on the floor outside Meher's room without realizing it, back against the wall like a night guard. Old habits. New mission. He woke to the sound of metal clatter in the kitchen. For a split second he panicked, then remembered where he was, home. He stood and walked in to find Meher on a stool, trying to reach a jar of sugar. You're not tall enough for that operation, he said gently. She glanced at him, not startled this time, just observant. I can manage. Teamwork works better, he replied, stepping forward and handing her the jar. He decided to cook breakfast, though he hadn't cooked anything more complex than field rations in years. Eggs went in too early, bread toasted too long, and the tea boiled over. Smoke rose. He coughed. Meher watched the disaster unfold with growing curiosity. It's burning, she announced. Yes, he said seriously, flipping the pan wrong and nearly dropping everything. This is a new recipe called Brave Breakfast. Very dangerous. A small sound escaped her, not quite a laugh, but close. He treated it like a medal. They ate anyway. He took the most burnt pieces without comment. Afterward, he went outside and started fixing the broken gate. Each screw tightened, felt like repairing time itself. He cleaned the yard, straightened the step, washed the dust from the windows. Meher sat on the threshold, hugging her knees, watching every move. Around mid-morning, Mrs. Rahman came over with fresh bread. She paused at the gate, seeing the repairs, the tools, the man working steadily. "You see?" she said to Meher, but loud enough for him to hear. "Heroes don't only return from war, they stay." The sentence settled into him deeper than any praise he had ever received. He put the screwdriver down and turned to his daughter. "I don't want to be your visiting hero," he said. "I want to be your everyday one, the boring kind, the always-there kind." Meher studied his face the way she studied drawings, looking for mistakes. "Always is big," she said. "I know," he answered. "That's why I'm choosing it." She walked over slowly, as if testing whether he might disappear if she moved too fast. Then she leaned forward and wrapped her arms around him, firm, real, unquestioning. He closed his eyes and held on, not like a soldier, like a father who was finally where he belonged.